Monday, April 28, 2025, marked a day of seismic shifts in Los Angeles as the bold and the beautiful unleashed a series of developments destined to alter relationships and loyalties forever. At the center of the whirlwind stood Eric Forrester, a man determined to orchestrate a romantic revolution, and Ridge Forrester, a man stubbornly clinging to the promises he had made. Around them, hearts would break, hopes would rise, and secrets would unravel, setting the stage for a week unlike any other. Eric, the ever-passionate patriarch, had never wavered in his belief that Ridge and Brooke were meant to be. Through decades of betrayals, reunions, and heartbreaks, Eric had always maintained that, despite all odds, Ridge and Brooke belonged together. His faith in their love story was unshakable. He harbored no ill feelings toward Taylor, respecting her deeply, but in Eric's heart, Brooke was the true match for his son. And so, Eric and Donna quietly conspired with Brooke to engineer a situation that would push Ridge toward the woman Eric believed he was destined to be with. The plan was simple in theory, but monumental in its implications. During the highly anticipated Forrester Creations fashion show, Brooke would make a stunning appearance, wearing a breathtaking wedding gown. Ridge, swept up by nostalgia and emotion, would publicly reunite with her, or so Eric hoped. But Ridge Forrester was not a man easily manipulated, even by his own father. When Brooke went missing just before her scheduled moment on the runway, Ridge's frustration boiled over. Furious and suspicious, he turned his anger toward Eric, accusing him of scheming and endangering the success of the show. Ridge demanded answers, his loyalty to Taylor fueling his indignation. Yet before the situation could spiral further, Brooke reappeared radiant, ethereal, stunning in the wedding dress designed to evoke memories of their storied past. The audience, unaware of the backstage turmoil, erupted in applause. Ridge, caught between duty and emotion, took Brooke's hand. Together they walked the runway, hand in hand, a living embodiment of a love story that had captivated Los Angeles for decades. To the onlookers, it was a dream come true. Ridge and Brooke looked as if they had never been apart. The chemistry between them was undeniable, their connection palpable. The crowd cheered, the cameras flashed, and for a fleeting moment, it seemed that destiny had triumphed over circumstance. But appearances, as always, could be deceiving. Behind the dazzling smiles and perfect poses, reality simmered. Ridge was a man committed not to Brooke, but to Taylor. He had made promises, and he intended to keep them. No amount of nostalgia, no flood of old feelings, could erase the choices he had made or the life he had vowed to build. After the show, away from the adoring eyes of the crowd, Ridge confronted his father. Eric, emboldened by the apparent success of the evening, pushed Ridge to embrace what he believed was inevitable, a reunion with Brooke. But Ridge's response was swift and unequivocal. No, he would not betray Taylor. He would not turn his back on his commitments. Ridge made it painfully clear to Eric that, despite the spectacle on the runway, his heart and his future belonged to Taylor Hayes. His decision was final. Eric, disappointed but resigned, saw the resolve in his son's eyes. Though he disagreed, he knew better than to press further for now. Meanwhile, Brooke, still glowing from her time in the spotlight, returned home and confided in her daughter. Hope Logan, ever the voice of reason amid chaos, listened as Brooke recounted the events of the night. Brooke admitted her lingering feelings for Ridge, her desire to rekindle what they once had. She asked for Hope's blessing, for her support in chasing after the love that had defined so much of her life. Hope, struggling to suppress her skepticism, forced a supportive smile. Her lips pursed tightly, her expression strained, but she told her mother that if this was truly what she wanted, then she should go after it. Hope's tone, however, carried an undercurrent of warning, a silent caution that the past was littered with pain and that chasing old dreams often ended in fresh heartbreak. At the Forrester mansion, Taylor Hayes wrestled with her own demons. Watching Ridge and Brooke together on the runway had been a dagger to her heart. Despite her brave face, Taylor's agony was clear. Later, in a quiet, tear-filled conversation with Steffi, Taylor confessed her fear that she was losing Ridge, that despite all the promises, despite all the hope, Brooke still held a piece of him that she could never touch. Steffi, fierce and protective, refused to let her mother spiral into despair. She urged Taylor to fight, to remember that Ridge had chosen her. Steffi vowed that Brooke would not win, that their family would not be torn apart again. Her words offered some comfort, but deep down, Taylor knew that love was not always a battle of wills. Sometimes, it was a quiet surrender to the truth. As emotions raged across Los Angeles, another crisis began to unfold, one that would soon dwarf even the chaos of Ridge and Brooke's entangled hearts. At the hospital, Liam Spencer, still reeling from his devastating brain tumor diagnosis, vanished without a trace. Steffi, having returned to check on him, found his hospital bed empty, the monitors disconnected, his belongings scattered. Panic set in immediately. Doctors rushed to assist. Alarms were sounded, but there was no sign of Liam anywhere within the hospital grounds. Finn, devastated and furious, reminded everyone that Liam had been warned explicitly not to leave his bed. His condition was precarious. Any strain, any sudden movement, could trigger catastrophic complications. The question burned on everyone's lips. Where had Liam gone? Was he wandering the streets of Los Angeles, disoriented and alone? Had he decided to slip away quietly, unwilling to let his loved ones watch him waste away? Or had something far darker happened? Speculation ran rampant. Some feared he had gone to see Beth and Kelly one last time. Others worried he had disappeared into the city's shadows, determined to die on his own terms, away from the sterile walls of the hospital room. The truth remained elusive, but one thing was certain: Liam was missing, and time was not on his side. Hope, already fragile from the emotional minefield with Brooke and Ridge, now faced the unimaginable terror of losing Liam without even a chance to say goodbye. Her heart fractured anew as she joined the desperate search, calling out for the man she loved even as the night swallowed her pleas. Steffi, too, felt the crushing weight of guilt. Had she pushed him too hard? Had she failed to see the signs that he was slipping away? As Ridge and Taylor, Eric and Brooke, Hope and Steffi all grappled with their own heartbreaks, the city of Los Angeles seemed to pause, holding its breath for what came next. Because in this world, a world built on passion, betrayal, loyalty, and love, no story ever ends simply. And for Liam, Ridge, Brooke, Taylor, Hope, and everyone they touched, the days ahead promised more tears, more choices, and perhaps, just perhaps, a few unexpected miracles. The night air in Los Angeles hung heavy, as if the city itself could feel the rising tension. Search parties fanned out across the hospital grounds, into the parking structures, down side streets, and into every dark corner where Liam Spencer might have disappeared. Every minute counted now, not just because Liam was vulnerable, but because each second without medical supervision brought him closer to irreversible disaster. Hope led the search with a desperation that bordered on hysteria. Her voice cracked as she called Liam's name into the cold, empty air. Steffi Forrester, guilt and fear driving her every step, moved methodically from one corridor to another, checking every waiting room, every stairwell. Finn coordinated with security, scouring camera footage, barking orders, refusing to let panic paralyze him. Brooke, caught between her own personal heartbreak over Ridge and the fresh terror of losing Liam, could do little but support Hope, holding her daughter tightly when the sobs grew too strong to contain. Hours passed. Night deepened into the dead of early morning. The hospital's bright lights seemed cruel now, illuminating the emptiness of their efforts. And still no Liam. Elsewhere, far from the chaos, Ridge sat alone at the Forrester mansion, whirling a glass of scotch he barely tasted. His mind replayed the night's events, the cheers of the crowd, the electric thrill of walking hand in hand with Brooke, and the cold, hard reminder of his promises to Taylor. He had stood firm against Eric's manipulations. Ridge, Brooke's voice broke through the silence, soft but unwavering. He turned, surprised to see her standing there, wrapped in a simple coat, her face stripped of glamour but radiating raw vulnerability. "I needed to see you," she whispered. Ridge set down his glass heavily. "Brooke, this isn't a good time." "It never is," she said, moving closer. "It's never the right time, is it?" He closed his eyes, struggling. "Brooke, we talked about this. I'm with Taylor. I've made my choice. But did your heart?" Brooke's voice cracked. "When you took my hand tonight, when you looked at me, did it feel like a choice? Or did it feel like coming home?" The silence stretched between them, thick with longing and regret. "I love Taylor," Ridge said finally, but even to his own ears, the words sounded weary. "And I love you," Brooke replied, tears slipping down her cheeks. "I always have. I always will." Before Ridge could respond, Brooke stepped forward, pressing her lips gently to his cheek, a soft, lingering kiss filled with sadness and hope. Then she turned and walked away, leaving him alone with the crumbling walls of his resolve. Meanwhile, back at the hospital, Taylor Hayes sat in a private waiting room, her hands trembling. Steffi had just returned, her search empty-handed, and found her mother quietly falling apart. "I watched them," Taylor said brokenly, staring at her clasped hands. "I watched Ridge and Brooke holding hands, smiling, basking in the applause. Like nothing had changed, like I was never even there." Steffi knelt in front of her, gripping her mother's hands tightly. "You are there, Mom. You matter. You're the one he chose. Don't let one night erase everything." "But what if he never really chose me?" Taylor whispered. "What if I was always just second best?" "No." Steffi shook her head fiercely. "You are not second best. You are the best thing that ever happened to him. He knows that. He's confused right now. But he'll remember. He'll see." Taylor clung to her daughter's words, desperate for anything to believe in. But deep down, fear had already taken root. As dawn approached, the search for Liam took a shocking turn. A hospital maintenance worker found him collapsed in a small, abandoned courtyard on the far side of the campus, barely conscious. His breathing was shallow, his skin cold and clammy. Blood pooled where he had struck his head against the pavement during his fall. Hope and Steffi rushed to his side as paramedics lifted him onto a gurney. Tears streamed down Hope's face as she cradled Liam's limp hand. "I'm here, Liam," she sobbed. "Please fight. Please." Finn worked feverishly to stabilize him, barking orders, trying to assess the extent of the damage. Tests confirmed the worst. The stress of his escape and fall had caused additional bleeding in his brain. His condition was now critical. Hope refused to leave his side. "I'm not letting you go," she whispered fiercely as doctors prepped Liam for emergency surgery. Not without a fight. Steffi stood nearby, numb with horror. The weight of her earlier decisions crushed down on her, the secrecy, the attempts to control who knew what and when. She had tried to protect Liam's dignity, his pride. But had she instead stolen precious moments that could never be reclaimed? And as if the night had not already been unbearable enough, another confrontation loomed. Brooke returned from the mansion, her mind still tangled in her encounter with Ridge, only to walk straight into the raw grief and rage radiating from Steffi. "This is your fault," Steffi hissed, her voice low and trembling with fury. Brooke blinked in shock. What are you talking about? You distracted Ridge, Steffi accused. You created chaos. You made everyone think about the wrong things when we should have been focused on Liam. Steffi, stop, Hope said sharply, stepping between them. This isn't helping. But the damage was done. Brooke, wounded and exhausted, could only shake her head and walk away. For the first time in a long time, Hope didn't rush after her mother. She stayed by Liam's side instead, where she belonged. As the sun finally rose over Los Angeles, the Forrester, Logan, and Spencer families braced themselves for the day ahead, a day that could end in heartbreak, in change, in revelations none of them were ready for. Because in the bold and the beautiful, love is never simple, loyalty is never guaranteed, and fate has a way of tearing even the strongest hearts apart when they least expect it.